It's Phil Lindeman, Crystal Media News Director, in the studio today with one of our local search and rescue volunteers. I'm with Joe Kassay. Joe, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's great to have you in here. And Joe, first and foremost, you're a search and rescue volunteer, which means it's not the only thing you do. What else do you do in town?
Yeah, I also work over at the high school. I teach social studies and outdoor education. I've been there for 8 years now.
Okay. Outdoor ed, what's that look like at the high school?
It's awesome. It's awesome. We get kids backcountry navigation skills and backcountry cooking skills. We do a good bit of risk management, how to kind of stay safe in the outdoors, a little bit of survival. We've been doing some field trips, trying to put our skills to the test.
So on a field trip, when you're heading out with the kids, what's that look like? Because I remember when I was a kid growing up in Denver, we had outdoor lab, where you would come up and you'd hang out for a week and you'd do all sorts of stuff. Basically, you were sleeping in cabins. It wasn't exactly roughing it.
Yeah.
Are these kids roughing it a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're definitely out there. Last fall, we were up on the backside of Buffalo when we had a nice storm come in and they had their tarp set up. And, they're properly roughing it. Everything they can carry on their back is what kind of gets them through the night. And the outdoor classes or the outdoor field trips are just kind of an attempt to get them to practice some of the skills we've been working on in the classroom. So knots and shelters and things like that.
All right. And I'm guessing, these are Summit County kids. They love being outside, or do they?
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I definitely kind of made an assumption that every kid in Summit County has been out a lot, and I've realized that we need to focus more on making sure that kids who live here can actually experience the outdoors, because it's not always as common as we think.
Yeah. And that's why I would say that, an outdoor ed class is just as important for anybody, whether or not, you're coming from the city or wherever it is you're coming from, even right down the street. You might live right down the street, but it doesn't mean that you're going up on the mountains every single afternoon or, spending days out in the backcountry. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think the four walls of the classroom sometimes can be restricting, and this is an opportunity for kids to practice things like teamwork and communication and problem solving in ways that they're not really used to. Mother Nature kind of is the best teacher in that sense.
That's the truth. Mother Nature, she can be unforgiving, but if you know what you're doing out there, at least you can kind of, manage yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what brought you here to Colorado in the first place?
So I moved out about 8 years ago. I got a job with Outward Bound up in Leadville and was leading expeditions with them, and at the same time got a job working down here in Summit County. I was riding my bike past Summit County High, 10 years ago, and I looked over and I was like, man, I could never work at a place like that. And lo and behold, I applied and ended up getting a gig here.
So what made you change your mind about becoming a teacher?
Well, I think I've kind of always wanted to be a teacher. My folks were both teachers, and we always kind of liked being in the classroom and helping people and trying to propel other folks to, be the best versions of themselves, and it was kind of a natural fit.
Okay. How'd you get into Outward Bound? I guess talk me through, did you have an outdoor ed class when you were a kid?
Yeah, no, not at all. When I went to college, I went to the University of Vermont. They had a big outdoor program, and I really enjoyed getting out with those guys, backpacking and climbing and things like that. And I was looking for that type of job, seasonal work at the time, and Outward Bound kind of popped up as a really good option. And I spent 8 seasons with those guys, and it was awesome.
8 years over there at Outward Bound. How does their programs compare to, what you're doing at the high school?
Yeah, I take a lot of what I did with Outward Bound and apply it to the high school. They're kind of the leader in outdoor education and experiential learning, and that's what I'm trying to do over there at the high school.
Okay, got it. And then finally, the rescue group. You're a volunteer with the rescue group. How long have you been doing that for?
I've been with the rescue group since 2019.
2019. How'd you get into it? What was it that made you, take, some of these other experiences and then move it on to doing what they do?
Yeah, I'd heard a little bit about the rescue group, and I kind of thought that some of the skills I had from the outdoor ed world and even from the classroom could be utilized pretty nicely with the group. And I was looking for a way to kind of contribute to the community and also get to know people, find people who had the similar passions as I do. And so I signed up for their little newsletter to find out when they were running classes of new members, and ended up applying with them.
And like you were saying, it's something that interested you, but also thought that you could find other people who were also interested in similar stuff. Tell me about that aspect of it, running into, like-minded people and maybe even people that you could learn a little bit from too.
Yeah, absolutely. The rescue group is awesome. There are a lot of people with a lot of different experiences. It's not all the baddest skiers and the best mountaineers. There are a lot of folks on that team who are just good at working with other people or friendly to be with for 8 hours while you're hauling someone through the woods at 3 a.m. And so I guess what I kind of found there was that a lot of the folks shared this interest and this desire, one, being in the mountains, but two, trying to contribute to the community in some way. Sometimes I think the photos you see and the stuff we do look pretty wild, but they're just ordinary folks. We've got teachers and plumbers and electricians and ski patrol folks. People kind of come from all walks of life. It's kind of neat.
What do you think you bring to the team? What's one of those skill sets that, you can either help other people out with or just feel like, real strong about?
Yeah, I think being in the classroom has honed my ability to zoom into small problems and then also zoom out when the time comes. And, when you're monitoring 30 kids in a classroom and trying to keep everyone on track, I think you kind of gain a sense of moving a group forward. And so I think that's something I contribute to the team.
Got it. And what do you think you've learned? What are some of those skills or talents that you picked up since joining?
Oh, that's a good question. One of the big things they say on the Summit County Rescue Group is go slow to go fast. And there's a lot of patience involved with a lot of these rescues that we pull off. And there's a good bit of focus on doing a good job slowly at first so that you can be efficient later. And I think that was one big thing that I've been learning as I've been working with the group. Kind of pause, take the time to assess, and go from there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that can be tough at times too, because you got adrenaline pumping, you've got that kind of urgency to get out in the field, help somebody out, obviously somebody in need. But like you said, sometimes you're going to do a better job if you step back just a touch. Did it help just to be around other people, soak that in, and I'm sure get with some of the veteran members on that group?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the folks on this team have been doing it for 40 years, and their ability to be patient and know when to contribute and when to step back is just fantastic. So there's definitely a lot of watching and modeling and learning from those around you. And a lot of those guys and women have seen, incredible things in the backcountry and have been a part of pretty amazing rescues. So it's definitely humbling to work with them.
When the all-call goes out, how does the response with that work? Just the logistics of actually being on the team. Everybody go out for it? Do you pick and choose what you go to? What's that look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there's a mission coordinator, and that mission coordinator is on duty for a full week. And when dispatch gets a call and has to direct it to the firefighters or the police officers or to search and rescue, that's when our people get pinged. The mission coordinators will pick up the job, and then they'll decide if they need the foot soldiers. And so I'm one of probably 70 people who are just the foot soldiers. And so when we get that message, you have your car packed and all of your gear packed and you're ready for the different elements. And if it's good timing and you can make it, you go and participate. And if it's not, then you pass it up and wait for the next one. But there's a quota. You try and get onto something like 15 or 20% of the missions a year, but all of us are on call the whole time. 24/7 unless we're out of town, really.
Okay, got it. But you do try to get out for at least a couple. Do you have a personal preference on what kind of missions you're going out for? You know, things that you feel like you can do the best on, or is it like...
Yeah, that's a great question. The funny thing is that you don't really know what the mission's going to be. You might have some idea, oh, it's up on Quandary, it's over at Buffalo, but sometimes what you go in for is not what you end up finding. But I usually like to do the ones that are on my side of town over in Silverthorne and Buffalo, and if I'm over near Breck and I don't have to fight through the main street traffic, I'll head over to Quandary.
So it's more about the location and how quick you can get there as opposed to, what you understand to be the nature of the call.
Yeah, I think so. I think, some missions are shiny and exciting and they need someone to ride in a helicopter, and other missions are long and laborious and in the dark. Actually, most of them are in the dark.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, it feels like... Well, especially summertime, when hikers are getting in trouble, getting lost, it's usually because they're wandering around in the woods after dark, or dusk comes up and they got no idea where they are, and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Now, you mentioned you got the car packed, ready to rock. What's in your car?
Depending on the season, you've got the layers that you need. We basically have a beefed up version of the 10 essentials. So layers, food, some mode of transportation. In the wintertime, some of the guys have snowmobiles on the back of their trucks. Most of us have skis and skins. In the summer, there might be a bike attached to your car so that if you need to get on a 4x4 road, you can use that. But yeah, you're pretty much ready to roll, ready to spend the night out most times that we go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you personally, after teaching courses and being involved with this stuff for a long time, anything outside of those 10 essentials that you always bring with you, something that's, that you just know that you like having or know that you need?
Sometimes I like to bring an extra treat for myself, something that if I'm 6 hours into a mission, I'm really going to enjoy. So a little bit of candy or something different to drink like soda or something that'll kind of lift me up, when you're 6, 7, 8 hours into a haul.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the thing that goes in my pack. Just a little something extra to keep me rolling. Because as a rescuer, I'm sure especially, you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself first and foremost still, because it doesn't do anybody any good, right, if the rescuer needs rescuing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you hope to take things with the rescue group? I mean, like you said, you got people on there with decades of experience. Do you see yourself, sticking around for that long potentially?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm kind of in the phase, I'm kind of an infant on the team, and I'm just learning from people around me and going to a lot of training. So I see, the next handful of years of just being a participant and learning more and trying to collect as much knowledge as I can. But I'd love to be able to say that I've been here 20, 30 years and contributing for that long. That would be great.
Now, I told Anna that I was not going to get anybody to tell me their, deep, dark stories of missions in the field. But if you wanted to, I would love to hear just, maybe the one mission that stands out in your mind, especially, like you said, as being relatively new on the team, but one that stands out in your mind as you feel like you did your best, or you feel like it was the most, you had the most to learn on that mission. You just left it feeling, all right, I got this. I can keep doing this thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, too. Yeah, we had a mission earlier this year that required a good bit of technical work, and we had a small crew of people on it. We didn't have 20 or 30 members. We only had about 10, and the mission was to get someone down off of the mountain in the litter, and we were losing something like 2,000 feet or so. And so we had to set up all of these different rope systems to lower this person. It was a slog. It was one of those days where what was cool about it was that it was a small group of us and everyone kind of found their spot to plug in. And so some people were working ropes and some people were working the litter and other people were just kind of buzzing around, making sure people felt good. And that was a really awesome mission because a lot of the stuff we had trained for was put into play on that one.
So kind of like your kids in the classroom, you got to put what you had learned or what you'd noticed, as you were working on all this stuff. You got to use it. Right.
And, in dynamic situations, sometimes it's really hard to find a rhythm. And that's what's been the coolest on this team is more missions than not. you kind of find a rhythm with the people you're with, whether you know them really well and have trained with them a lot, or whether they're new and you're just working with them for the first time, or whether they've been here for 40 years and suddenly you're walking, alongside each other as if you're both contributing the same amounts. It's kind of cool to find that, that rhythm.
Truly feels like a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, fantastic, great. And then final question for you. If somebody was interested in getting involved, I know that you guys got lots of members, and it's not like you can take everybody that applies all at once. What would you recommend to somebody who is looking to apply, that they can get themselves ready to go the minute that you guys do need more members?
Yeah, definitely hop on our website. There's a place to sign up there and try and get onto the newsletter, because that'll tell you when we have new member classes. I can't really speak too much to when they're doing another one. They kind of do it when we need more members, but as long as you sign up, there's a spot where they'll email you when we're looking for folks, and then it's a tryout, and come up and bring your best attitude, and we'll see what happens.
Well, Joe, thanks again for making time to talk a little bit about Summit Rescue Group, and we appreciate all you guys do out there, definitely. It's one of those things that we say it every time. All volunteer group. Nobody's getting paid for this thing.
Yep.
But would it change your mind? You'd still do it without getting paid, I'm sure.
I think so. There's a little bit of a thrill there, too.
Yeah, most definitely. Phil Lindeman talking to Joe Kassay about Summit Rescue Group here on Crystal 93.